Express, and I'm talking to whoever's listening.
Calling the War Council of Gallifrey. This is the Doctor.
I am I. Tell me. You played.
Everything's perfectly all right now. We're fine. We're all fine here now. Thank you. How are you?
Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode of the Following the Nerd podcast, and this week we've got a very special Halloween treat for you. It's Halloween, it's 1992, it's the UK, everyone's running around trick-or-treating, it's just gone 9:25, and BBC One has just started to air an all-new paranormal special called Ghost Watch. Now, despite everybody being told before the show aired that it was a drama, people just didn't realise because it was done real style. We're very familiar with it now. It's kind of the most haunted and the Ghost Hunters formula, but back in 1992 it was unlike anything anybody had ever seen. It starred Michael Parkinson, Greene and Craig Charles. It was set in a housing estate like any other in Northolt in London, and it was supposed to capture hopefully paranormal activity right there and then on the set. And of course, over the next hour and a half, everything went slightly askew. The public were completely roped in and it became an overnight sensation. And with me tonight, I am very, 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 very happy to speak to Mr. Stephen Volk, the writer of Ghost Watch. Stephen, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Now, you and I got introduced on Twitter. I have to admit, I'm going to admit this, and hopefully I don't get a knock on the door, I didn't realise Ghost Watch had been released on DVD, and I've since ordered a copy of it. So I scoured online because I had seen a little documentary about it on YouTube, and I suddenly remembered, oh my god, I remember watching that. So I watched them making off, and I was like, I need to watch this. So I scoured the internet, and I found a copy of it on the internet, and I sat down with the kids, and I watched it, and it absolutely blew me away for the second time. Sorry?
Good to know.
Yeah, it holds up so well.
Good. I find that when it's strange when I go to screenings now, when they in universities or whatever, where they show them on the big screen. Mm-hmm. They have a kind of screening of Ghost Watch. It's usually the same kind of pattern, is that the audience is quite cynical and kind of on for a laugh, especially to begin with, and they start really laughing to begin with in the first hokey few minutes and that kind of thing, and they're quite smug in their approach to it, really, about, I'm not going to be scared by this. Why should I be scared by this? It's, I know it didn't happen. I know it's recorded. I know they're all acting. And then a weird thing happens about halfway through. It's like they get sucked into it.
Yes.
And it starts to go really quiet, and the laughter becomes a bit more nervous laughter. Mm-hmm. And by the end, they're really, really in a different frame of mind, and that's the pattern that I observe when people watch it nowadays, which is quite gratifying.
Yeah, it's utterly fantastic. Now, I sat down and watched it because, again, as you're saying, I was a wee bit smug. I thought, you know what, it was 1992, it was television, how scary could it be? And my little girl's 10 and my son is 13. So we sat down because my wife hadn't seen it, and my son was aware of it. I guess that's a good thing. He actually knew what it was.
Yeah.
So we all sat down a couple of nights ago and we put it on TV. And again, at the start of it, I was like, it's not aged too well, and everything else. And then about a half an hour in, there just was silence in the living room, and my little girl, all you could see was her two eyes over the top of the cushion. And I actually said, this isn't scaring you, is it? And she just nodded. She just gave me this frantic nod, and I was like, do you want to turn it off? She's like, no.
Oh, she wants to keep watching it. That's interesting.
Yeah, because I watched Stranger Things with them, and when we watched the first season of it, again, they were scared, and I said, look, do you want to turn it off? And they're like, no, we want to see it, which is great. I think it's a good sign. You've captured them.
Definitely. Yeah.
But Ghost Watch has become, Stephen, something I'm sure you more than anybody are aware of this. It's become a phenomenon. I've heard it likened, and I like it myself, to the War of the Worlds phenomenon.
Yeah. Well, I think we were kind of aware of that when I first kind of pitched it to the producer, that there was the potential of that. It wasn't really couched as a kind of a prank in the way that I think people in retrospect kind of label it as a hoax, really, but it was genuinely pitched as a drama that really had to be done as if live in order to get its impact.
Yes.
So it was kind of form and function. We had to do it like that in order to do the thing justice. It wasn't a thing. It wasn't something that was setting out primarily to fool people. Mm-hmm. It was that we wanted to tell a ghost story in a modern way that would reflect television. And could only be told on television in that way. Yeah. So we had to do it that way, and the consequence was, of course, that some people were fooled by it. But I was very surprised. I always kind of worked on it on the basis that we maybe might fool people or misguide people rather for about 10 minutes, mm-hmm. and then most people would twig that it's a drama. Done in a particular way, but there's all sorts of span of reactions to it, from people that knew from the moment it started that it was fake, to people that watched the whole thing and didn't realise that it was fake. So it's more about the subjectivity of the people watching, yes. rather than the program itself. I mean, I tell the story that I even said to a friend of mine. I've got a thing coming out on TV next Saturday, so, that I wrote, make sure you watch it if you're around, and they said that they were taken in by it, and I said, how could you be taken in when I already told you that I'd written it? And she said, well, once I saw Michael Parkinson, I thought you must have got it wrong. And there was throughout it, really, I think there's and this goes back to what we were just talking about, the way people watch it. I think there's something about the way it's made, and this is all credit to Leslie Manning, the director, yes. in a sense, for realising it so brilliantly, was your conscious mind is telling you, no, I know this is fake, I know this is really not really happening, I know this happened 25 years ago, and was staged and was fake, but there's something about the way the pictures are put together and the visual language that's used that kind of bypasses your critical faculty and tells some primitive part of your brain that you're watching something really happening. Yeah. And I think that's hopefully why it's still involving these days to people. Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, a really good story well told is always going to be a really good story well told. Right. Yeah.
But I actually remember whenever it did air, I remember I was 15, I think, when it aired first. And, it was Halloween night and I was out with my friends. I was coming back in and it was on the TV. It was on. The funny thing is, if somebody had asked me how long it was on, I would have said I thought it was 3 or 4 hours long. Right. Because in my memory, it was constantly on when I was coming in and out. And I remember watching it as the tension sort of ramped up. And I remember it being completely enthralled, and my dad, this is before you could Google, is this real, and get a million pages telling you no, it's not. Yeah. And my mum and my dad were watching it, and I was watching it, and I was completely taken in. And what was their reaction to what was going on? Do you remember? Yes, I actually do, because we all were, we were all just basically standing, because it was actually, we watched it in the little TV in the kitchen, because people were coming trick-or-treating and people were calling round and it was just on and we were all watching it in the kitchen, and I sort of remember everybody just staring at the screen, and then in the last 5 minutes when everything just completely goes haywire, we all kind of had a sigh of relief. We're like, oh, that's definitely not real. Yeah. That was quite deliberate on the part of the producer, who wanted to make sure that we kind of went out with a bang, so that people were in no doubt that it was, too preposterous to have really happened really in the end. Yeah. She was very keen to make it a big kind of horror movie ending. We had various discussions about other more insidious ways to end it. I wanted to kind of leave it up in the air, but she said no, that won't wash with the BBC. They'll never allow. I wanted to end it with a black screen, with the presenter saying to you that the ghost is going to come for you in your homes. That's how I wanted to end it, and she said no way, they're not going to do that. So unfortunately that didn't happen. But we also wanted to do some tricks, like for instance,
we wanted to put a subliminal sound on the soundtrack to make dogs bark at home. It's like a dog whistle kind of thing that would actually get pets to react at home, so that your dog would be going crazy and you wouldn't know why.
That's really actually, devious.
The director, would you believe, actually looked into that, and they couldn't technically figure out how to do that, so that didn't happen. But that would have been a really I think I would have gotten probably more pilloried for that. Anything involving pets outrages people far more than adults, children, or anything really. Yeah. So maybe it was for the best that we didn't do that in the end.
The thing that I found the most fascinating about it, going back and watching it now, because I've actually watched a load of YouTube documentaries on it and breakdowns and stuff over the last couple of weeks, because it just came along at the right time and it just recaptured my imagination again. And the thing that I think is really great about it is the character of Pipes, to me, is very similar to I'm sure you're aware of the phenomenon of the Slender Man.
Oh yeah.
Where it's almost, people know it's not real, but it's almost become a thing of its own, like a real entity of its own almost. Yeah,
it has become that really, and I'm quite pleased about that. That actually something, something of the mythic has attached itself to Ghostwatch, probably because it was kind of unseen for so many years. So there was only word of mouth for people to recollect it by until the DVD came out. But also the fact that we didn't show Pipes very much. The director actually put him in a lot of scenes that weren't scripted, simply because a wise director makes sure that they get more footage than they need. As long as they've got the footage, they can not use it. But if you haven't got it, you can't use it.
Of course, yeah.
So it's better to have more and use less. So the whole myth of how many times does he appear in the drama has gone on and on and on, and actually I don't know the answer to that. I think the director obviously knows the answer, but I don't know the answer to his exact appearances. So that kind of thing, I think those kind of, what they now call it, kind of Easter eggs, don't they? Those kind of hidden things. That's one of the things that we were doing really. But I think the longevity of it really is very gratifying, because, as you said right at the beginning, I think the main thing we were trying to do really is a ghost story for television.
Yeah.
That used the medium of television to its utmost, really. And I grew up with ghost stories for Christmas and things like that. Which admittedly I really liked and were scary, but they were always kind of literary, and they were conventional dramas. You wouldn't for a moment think they were really happening. I mean, for a start, they were always set in Victorian Edwardian times, and secondly, they were always kind of constructed in the way a literary story is constructed. And I kind of wanted to unpick that really. And I working in television and television drama, I started to think. I think this is what it came from. Really, was if you tell someone a ghost story, it always begins the same way. If you read a ghost story or you tell someone a ghost story, it always the same way. It starts off, you're not going to believe this, but this really, really happened to me.
Yeah.
Now, I know you're not going to believe me, but I promise you it's absolutely true. Okay, that's how every story starts. So I was thinking, how do you do that in television? How do you know this really, really happened to me? And you do it by thrusting a camera in someone's face and them saying, no, this really, really happened to me.
Yeah.
So that opened up the possibility of doing something in a documentary kind of live broadcast fashion to make it the equivalent of how a literary ghost story works, really.
Yeah, and of course it seems to be too that it almost was the beginning, because afterwards we had things like Blair Witch and Paranormal Activity and Most Haunted, and now you can't turn on TV at late at night without.
Well, I think that actually comes from. Leslie, the director, has a kind of Mission Impossible, which is to try and find out whether the guys that made Blair Witch ever saw Ghostwatch, and I think it's been asked